Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to What Do You Say Anime. I am your host, Peter, and on today's episode, the gang and I will be reviewing the 1988 movie Akira. Joining me, back from his jaw surgery, Mr. Hasek himself. How's it going?
Junko did nothing wrong.
I don't know what that means, but I'm glad to have you back. Joining us, as always, Mr. Co-host himself, Johnny. Johnny, how's it going?
Yeah, so last week we had a bit about how I wasn't able to watch the Demon Slayer movie because, up here north, no one really gives a crap about us. Well, turns out a few days after that, thankfully, Sony accidentally released a movie digitally. So, thanks. So I was able to watch it. Yeah. Well, I still gotta watch the Violet Evergarden movie, but I'm gonna catch up to you guys eventually. So, yeah.
Sounds good. Glad to have you. And joining us again is Happy. Happy, how's it going?
Doing pretty well. I don't have anything clever right now.
You know who does have something clever? Mr. Taylor Swift himself, Miles. Miles, how's it going?
It's going great. I guess unsurprisingly, I couldn't find a Taylor Swift lyric to encompass Akira.
Really?
Because she was about to sing it, and then Kanye West.
And then Kanye.
Yeah, let's go.
So yeah. I don't know. Don't worry, Johnny. I haven't seen the Violet Evergarden movie yet either.
Well, I think that's for a different reason than me, but
Yeah. Well, hopefully we don't have any bad blood between our takes today. Between
we will
how we view that was a Taylor Swift joke, Johnny. Obviously, you didn't get that. And
I'm
joining us as our other moderator.
I'm not 12 years old. Well, maybe
and
I am.
Other moderator. And our other moderator of the night, we have Mr. Patty Mills himself. Pat, how's it going?
Oh, it's gone good. I'm assuming to any returning listeners, I sound very different. I did just get a new microphone. My setup's different as well. Probably still some modifications on the way, but I'm glad to be here. Glad to give you guys a slightly more natural or less filtered version of my actual voice. And yeah, I can't wait to. Well, I can wait to talk about this movie, but I guess we can't. So, getting right off the bat, just like we always do with Akira, or with movie. God damn. I am out of sync today. Just like we always do with movies or TV shows, we're going to do our first impressions. So what we knew about the movie going into it, what we thought of the first, since it's a movie, first 15, 20 minutes or so, or the first act of the movie, let's say, and our general thoughts, all spoiler free. So if you haven't seen the movie, don't worry, we won't spoil it for you. Miles, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, sure thing. So, I mean, I honestly didn't know a lot about Akira. I knew that it was from the 80s, and it looked like it was from the 80s. It's got that 80s aesthetic to it. I, knew that it was, like, very influential and stuff. I knew there was a bike in it that the guy rides. Those were the things I knew. So I decided, going into it, super ready, first 10 minutes or so, pretty interesting. You got some like gang wars going on. I was really excited to learn about those two gangs and their, philosophies and why they're doing what they're doing, and learn about any of the characters and all. I don't know. The movie was okay. I guess I'd recommend it. Like, I think my take is probably wrong, but like, I'm gonna stick with it. So, but because I'm going to admit that I'm probably wrong, I'll give it a recommendation.
Okay. Fair enough. So let's listen to Haz now. Haz is gonna have a slightly different take from my understanding.
Yeah. So I knew Akira as the legendary anime movie, sort of like what made anime films sort of like this thing that people respected. Um, Know about good for health, bad for education, um, and every aesthetic account that uses it. Um, and I watched the first 20 minutes and it was fucking great. It's first like forewarning. Like I am a I'm just a sucker for sort of like dirty, dingy, like hood rat things, right? Because I'm from something just died in Pat's house.
You just drop a beer.
No, the counterweight for the mic stand that I wasn't able to figure out before recording.
I thought you fucking dropped the beer that you were holding.
No, it's still good here. We're good. I heard it. I heard it start sliding down, and I out of the corner of my eye, I was just like, Uh-oh. Like, well, all right.
Well,
No,
right.
we're good though. We're good. All good.
We're all
Sorry, I had to
good. No
continue.
one's
Akira.
no one's dead.
Maybe
Yeah.
Akira's in my room. Who knows?
I am the counterweight that is currently falling to Miles' wrong opinion.
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's all the cleverness I had for the show. Yeah, I love like this what they were going for. I think all the characters that you're introduced to just feel like normal guys growing up, in the hood of Tokyo, and I like it's the way the world is designed reminds me a lot of like some of the first anime I watched outside of the ecchi, but
Mhm.
like the older cyberpunk anime that we don't really get as much anymore, and it's like the most recent one is Akudama Drive, but like that sort of like it's the future, but it's still like nasty and gritty sometimes. So yeah, I loved it. I would recommend it.
Yeah, I think Akudama Drive is better than this. So if we're going anywhere with that. Johnny, what do you think?
Well, I haven't watched that, but
No, well, what do you think about Akira though?
I probably think Akudama Star is better. But anyways, about Akira,
Yeah.
So I heard about this show actually from not from like anyone here. Actually, I actually heard about it from another anime podcast, Trash Taste. So, famous. So
I've never
the
heard of them. Never heard of them.
Nah,
No, yeah. What do they talk about? Anyways, go
I
ahead.
don't think they're as good as us, but anyways.
Oh,
So like one of the guys on there, you know what they said about Akira? They thought it was pretty fucking mid, and honestly, pretty relatable. I thought it was pretty fucking mid. Like I can understand like maybe if I was alive 30 years ago watching this in theaters, if I was Japanese, I'd probably think it was great. But I don't know. It's just I think maybe it hasn't aged well. Maybe I'm too young. I mean, I am 12 years old after all. Maybe I just don't get all this too stuff that's too deep for me. I don't know, but in terms of how I would recommend this, I mean, I would say that like you would have to be like it's hard to say. I feel like like my bit going into this, like I thought like Miles would actually like the show, but then he didn't, so it
Yeah.
really messed up what I was gonna say here. So I guess if you're has and like the hood stuff, go watch it. Yeah, that's all I got. You ruined my bit.
all right. Happy. What about you? What have you got to say for Akira?
Okay, so I'm gonna take this time to rant about animation because this movie has better animation than it deserves.
Wow.
So I think it looks really pretty, and I think that it's really, really well animated. Story, it's not great. Just kind of, it's okay. It's not awful. Just kind of. I mean, we'll get into it later, but I didn't really care for the story that much.
Fair enough. All right. And so lastly, would you recommend it or no?
No, I
No.
wouldn't.
No, you wouldn't. Okay, that's good to know. Pete, what about you?
So going into this, I knew that Akira is essentially responsible for most high budget films. Back in 1988, it had, with its production budget, had like $9 million if you convert it to USD, which at the time is a ton of money for an animated film. And because of the success of it, led to more money getting put into films. So it has a huge influence on the medium itself in terms of animated movies. And then I also knew that Kanye West did Blinding Light or Flashing Lights because of Akira, because he absolutely adores this film. Those are the two things I really knew going into it. And Pat, you brought up something that was really interesting too. I never got like the ending spoiled for me for Akira, like ever. Like
Yeah.
I'm surprised of like how big of a movie Akira is. Nobody ever told me what happened to it. Everyone's just like the ending is just like whatever, and that's all I heard. No one like really explained it to me because I just think like the movie itself was you need to watch it to understand the ending. And we're gonna have some hot takes, but for me personally, I was hooked the second I started watching Akira. We're gonna have some really fun debates, I think, going into it, but I fell in love with most of the characters like immediately. I love them. The animation, you could tell it's gritty and from the 80s, but like it's still better than some of the animation we see in this day and age. It's you can see its budget like immediately. I thought it set it up really. It kind of like right off the bat when you saw the nuke. That set up like the story of Neo Tokyo itself. Just like, oh, is this Neon Genesis? Like how they even did like the text of like 31 years later. I'm like, ooh, I'm getting some Neon Genesis vibes from it. And just seeing End of Evangelion, that was kind of resonating in my body. So I absolutely recommend this movie if you're a fan of like post-apocalyptic delinquents and stuff like that. I had a really good time watching this movie.
Fair enough. Yeah. So, like what Pete was saying, just for me at least, I while I was watching it, I was just like, man, yeah. So like, I know he rides a bike, and that's pretty much all I knew going into it. Like, I had no idea half of the stuff that would happen at the end of the movie. So when I was watching it, I was just like how, like I've had people like almost spoil End of Evangelion for me, or I've had people almost spoil other series for me. But like Akira, a movie that is like again as so critically acclaimed and is like it's on every top anime of all time list. It's on every like most influential list. I never even once had like any idea, especially again, we'll get into it later, but like the way it ended, I had no idea that that was coming. Like I had literally no inkling going into it. As for my impressions overall, again the animation was really nice, especially for an older film. It was pretty impressive. And I understand the influence that it had, or I knew going in that about the influence that it had on anime culture and production of other anime and movies and stuff like that. Um, but I don't know. I expected to be a lot more impressed with the story and the plot. Well, yeah, just like the plot in general. I felt like it was very all over the place. Not a lot of stuff is explained, and yeah, I mean, so I still would recommend it. I think because it is an art piece and it's like it's a very important representation of like a perspective in 80s Japan. But I could not get into it, and in terms of enjoyment, I would not recommend it. That I guess that's the best way to put it. But yeah, so now going forward, we're gonna have spoilers for all the plot points at any point throughout the movie. So please feel free to pause us and come back to us later if you are. That it is a pretty spoiler heavy movie, I would say. Like not, um, like the plot is it's hard to talk about without really spoiling anything. So please keep that in mind. Does anyone have any specific points that they want to talk about first?
I think we should talk about the
That-
characters.
That works for me.
Because when we did our pre like banter, I think we brought up the conversation of not very very polar opposites of enjoying the characters. Where
Yeah.
I felt like, to me, I fell in love with the main character Kaneda and just his whole ragtag team of whatever, because growing up I heard stories, because my dad grew up in Detroit. He was poor. He was in a gang, and he would tell me stories of his childhood about being in a gang, and this reminded me of like the stories my dad told. It's just like they're just dumbass kids fighting people because they're bored, and I resonated with that so much because I guess for like my dad, he like if they ever had money, they would buy it on like materialistic things and not like the necessities. And I felt like this is like the same batch where they either, I don't know, rob people or whatever. They got money, and what they do, they buy motorcycles. Like they probably live in like dumps, but like you get so accustomed to that lifestyle where like if you buy something like a motorcycle, that's like your life, and you kind of see how they build like this friendship around being in a biker gang, and I loved it. And then I know Miles came in off the top rope and hit me, like blindsided me. He's like, actually, these characters suck ass. So I was like, I really want to hear like, I think we can debate, but it's just like, I think it's just like a difference of perspective of like how you viewed the characters as like people, because I love them. And Miles, I'm still tagging you in. I know Miles did not like them.
Yeah, I just feel like the characters didn't have any more depth than like their position in society, right? Like they are like who they're supposed to represent as like a group. Like the army guy represents like authority and stuff, and like an older like militaristic sort of view, and that's how he acts. And we don't know why he does anything other than the fact that that's who he is. And in Canada, as you were saying, is like the gang guy. He does, he's sort of like the disenfranchised youth, and he does disenfranchised youth things. Why, we're not really sure, but he does them. And then what was the girl's name?
There was the main one, Kaori or K.
K. But K's like sort of like the more hopeful, go-gettery sort of let's make a difference-y youth, and then they like team up together and make a movement and do all of that. But it's just like that's what they are. They're just like they're symbols. I felt like I don't know enough about what motivates them or anything other than who they are. Like other than I know their motivations, but I don't know
Yeah.
how they got them or how those motivations affect them or any of that.
So
Really.
in a story like Akira, does it does it really matter? Because I feel like they could have.
Yeah.
I do
Yeah,
think that
yeah.
they could.
I think
do
it's
think they could plug in any delinquent, and I think it would work. It didn't have to be these set of biker gangs. It could have just been random gang A or random gang B, and it would still tell the same story. And I felt like that was more important than the actual characters themselves. Even though I love the characters, and I didn't think it took away from anything that was given to us throughout the entire story.
That's my and Pat and Johnny, you can tag in real quick after, but that's my main issue with it, that he could be anyone. And I don't, maybe that's the fucking point, right? I understand the point of the everyman and all of that. I get that. He could be anyone. That's what we're saying. And I don't know, maybe. But he could have been anyone in 1988 Japan, and I didn't do my history homework, before I watched the movie.
Yeah.
So I was kind of bored just because he seemed like he could be anyone, and I don't like watching movies about people who could be anyone. That's not interesting.
Yeah, I can agree with Miles on the characters. Now that I just thought about, because I never really thought about it that way. These characters are, there's not a lot of depth given to them, outside of like he said about their motivations. Although at the end of the movie, they kind of have that flashbacky scene where you see where, God, I need to pull up their names again. Sorry, they, um, Tetsuo and Kaneda first meet, right? At the schoolyard or whatever. I don't know. So they kind of at the, again, in the last 5 minutes of the movie, they finally give these characters a backstory, or I don't know, again, how they met, how they grew up together, why they're so close, or why they care about each other. Yeah, it didn't really feel like there was that much depth to them outside of that. I did like the characters though. Like P is saying, I enjoyed Kaneda. I thought he was funny. I also have to ask too, Miles, did you watch the dub?
I did watch the dub.
You
This
did
is
watch the
this is
dub.
a
I
theory
watched the
that
dub
I
as
might
well.
have. The dub kinda is bad.
Yeah, I agree.
And I wonder if I just took it a lot less seriously, and I thought the characters were more cheesy and campy and not good because of their
Their voices.
yeah, their voice acting or something.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
gotta say it was super campy. Sorry, Johnny, to cut you off, but it was it was vintage as hell. I sat down, put it on, and I was like, okay, oh well, it's an '80s movie, so I didn't expect a perfect dub, but at the same time, again, with a movie of this status and rapport, I was like, maybe there's a remastered dub that has been released if the original one was bad. There has not been a remastered dub released. It is I don't know. The first 5 minutes, I was just like, "Oh God, this is gonna be a long ride." I am not liking this. But go ahead, Johnny.
Yeah, I was gonna say the main character sounds like a 14-year-old kid on Xbox Live trying to sound like they're pissed off.
At different times, yeah, no, he definitely does.
That that's a dub thing, because in the sub he was sweet.
Okay, so maybe that's one of the reasons why we hated the main
I
character.
feel like that is a huge divide. I thought,
but Has watched this dub too, right?
Yeah, so I watched the dub, and I'm on Pete's side with this. I love the main characters, right? The thing is, I think I understood that it was old dub, whatever. So I kind of expected about that for voice acting quality. But also I don't think this dumbass 17-year-old or whatever who's in a biker gang sounding like a dumbass kid on Xbox today is that bad of a thing. I just think it's just dumbass kid, right? I'm and I think to the points that, you guys are making about the characters and their motivations, right? Personally, right? And here's what I'll say. I when you get to I think the story that Akira tells, right, by using these characters that represent, and I know that Pat and Johnny you'd pro because like Miles saw the video breaking down sort of like what certain elements represent in Japanese history. But like having these characters that are essentially representative of either events in Japanese history and movements, all condensed into one character, making them extremely broad in what they're meant to say.
Mhm.
Um, when you start adding like very specific character motivations, it becomes the larger narrative that Akira is trying to tell is lost, right? So it's one or the other. It's either this giant like narrative about like the divide between Japanese youth of today versus the ones who lived through like I think it was Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right? Like, or you get like this specific story about this biker gang and shit. Now, personally, I have no problem with either of those being it. But I understood what was being told to me was a larger story than just these characters. And as such, I did not look for motivation beyond like why is it so much that Tetsuo like I honestly the flashback of like them being, orphans, like, it didn't really change much for me, outside of afterwards when I saw what it was supposed to represent. Like, I didn't care because they're great, they're like real people, and it may not be anything specifically cool about them, but, like, anything you coulda said just probably would've been, like, extra to me.
That's fair. Happy?
Yeah, okay, so for me, I would actually agree that Kanda is one of the better characters, and I also really like the military and like science, like those people. I thought they were interesting. But the problem was is that I didn't really consider them to be bleh, to be the protagonist. I thought Tetsuo was the protagonist, and I thought he was boring.
Really? So you consider I guess it makes sense. Like Tetsuo is like a sort of a protagonist, right? Where he's just trying to like understand his situation. He's just trying to live himself right and like
Hmm.
survive or have a place in the world. I guess yeah. So there could be like a multiple protagonist kind of perspective, I guess, with this movie. I don't know. I think that that's a good
Yeah,
point,
Yeah,
Happy.
because
I
there's
didn't think
kind of
about
like
that.
two
I
stories going on at the same time.
Yeah, there is.
yeah, and I thought Kanda was interesting enough, but I thought it was more focused on Tetsuo, and Kanda was just kind of like the best friend character. Like,
That's fair. I think that's really fair. So has I there was a point that you just made that I wanted to touch back on about that you were just talking about.
Mhm.
God, it's slipping me right now because we changed topics a little bit. But the flashback scene. You're saying it didn't really add anything for you or whatever
Mm,
until you then realized after the fact that it was
until I
that
realized what
was
it represented.
what it
Mhm.
represents. So what does it represent? I want to understand. I need to understand because to me
So,
it meant
uh,
nothing. It meant nothing
the
other than like a flashback scene, like
Wait,
you said.
really quick before we do that, Johnny had something he wanted to say
oh,
about the
yeah,
previous
yeah,
topic, and then
Oh,
we'll
okay.
continue. Sorry.
yeah, yeah.
No, that's a good point. I forgot about Johnny.
It's okay, it happens a lot.
It
But
does.
anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the points I want to say is that like I think I'm kind of in the middle ground on the characters because like where like has has and Pete love them and then like Miles says he doesn't like them. I think for me it's like they're very stereotypical. They're they're like the most generic like punk characters ever. Like they don't have anything that separates them from like all the other characters of that trope. Which again, like has says, like in the story, it doesn't matter that they're that way since the story isn't about that. It's more about the story of Akira. But like for me, when it comes to stories, it's really important that I am in any way able to like the main character and like the things that he does. And like Kanada, I just couldn't get that with him. He rides a bike, he hits on girls, he hates the cops. I don't know, like what else is there to say?
I think that's fair. Yeah. He doesn't have like a ton like really going on. Again, though, that's part of that though is because it's a movie and it's hard to flesh out characters while also still staying relevant to the plot or whatever. So I think uh we may be giving them a little bit too much
Well,
shtick
I
I
collectively,
guess
feel
like
like
but
what else of a delinquent do you want to see? Like,
no, I think maybe give him some dialogue about his relationship
dude,
with
their
Tetsuo,
dialogue
not
is
just
incredible in this film.
maybe it is in
I
the
also
maybe
I
it is in
also
the sub, but in the dub, I couldn't
I
think of I couldn't
I-
think of a scene that was really. That
I
incredible.
don't think
What I
anything
would-
they said was very good.
Oh
Like
my-
none of it mattered. Like
What
I
I
don't
would-
think
okay.
it matters who says it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
I guess part of the issue for me too is like what I feel like at this point, right? However long it's been since Akira's been made, right? What makes a delinquent interesting, right? Like what you can assume, right? And I think that's like part of the point is like you can assume they didn't have a good upbringing. They go like you didn't need to see them at school not paying attention to know that they don't pay attention at school. You know what I mean? Like I feel
Mhm.
like this is like what you're asking for to me is fluff because you're like, oh,
what I'm
add all
asking
these.
for. What I'm asking for
asking
is
for
something that makes them
motivations.
different.
No, it doesn't need to be fluff. How do I know that? Honestly, I assumed that kid was kind of wealthy because of his bike.
No.
And there's nothing that indicates he isn't,
The
other
place
than
they
being from an
live?
orphanage.
Other than
The
like
place-
the surrounding area that you see the
area
entire
that they're
time
in.
they're in
The whole
Neo
city
Tokyo.
looks like
The whole
a pile of
city's
trash.
a mess of
Yeah.
garbage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the
And
whole city is
because
a
the whole
fucking
city-
dump.
Yes.
Because this
Because of a
city
nuke.
sucks.
So is no one rich in the city?
So we figured this out pre-banter that Miles was unaware that poor people can afford materialistic things. He did like that concept in his mind just does not exist. Like he has a motorcycle. He has to be rich. It's like
Yeah,
poor
it's
people
not
can
a
own
motorcycle.
motorcycles.
It's like the world's
It's like
best
the
motorcycle.
best bike. Yeah.
And for some
I
reason
refuse
he's
to
still,
believe he got that.
and for some
legitimately.
reason he goes to of course he didn't. He's a bum. Like he's 17, has no job.
Well,
It-
I was
it-
gonna
and
say, how the fuck has he not been robbed? He literally just leaves in the middle of the school courtyard.
we saw them get beat up. We saw Tetsuo get beat up. We know the rest of them have been beaten up at some. That's the thing, though. You don't need to be shown that. I feel like
Yeah,
I
it's-
assume that because
yeah.
they're delinquents. Like this is what
Absolutely.
that's what.
But okay,
delinquents
but
are.
but none of that matter. Like what matters is like
Yeah, I
the-
agree, but I'm not like I agree. Like in terms of like the broader story, it doesn't matter. They're set up as representatives of different aspects of like Japanese life or groups in Japan, right? So I understand that like the peculiarities of them don't necessarily matter. But I'm saying like in defense of like wanting that, I don't like if you want it, I don't think you need it, right? At least in this story, you would have to change Akira's story for me to want that. Like,
I don't think
in-depth
so. I think you
analysis.
can add
I
nuance
don't
to
think
it
so
by
either.
adding depth to the characters. I think that it can enhance what it's trying to say by giving the characters personal experiences that are in line with the groups that they're supposed to be representing.
Okay, so like one of the examples is like it's like near the end of the story, like one of their friends die. And then like what are you supposed to feel? You literally know nothing about that
That's a
person.
great
You're like-
example.
you're
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, this guy's dead. So what? I literally don't even know his name.
Well, quite a few people die.
Well, like
Is it-
he was one of their best friends. Like you're supposed to feel something when one of the main character's best friends dies, and you're just like, okay, he's dead. So what?
Well,
I
his
literally
reaction
don't know
was good
anything.
too. I did
I-
like his reaction of driving his bike into the wall
Yeah,
or whatever, right? Like
I did like that scene.
that.
though,
That
but,
was
like,
that. But that's our point, though. Is like that, or maybe I guess that's more maybe Has and Pete's point is that that scene alone, showing him being so distraught, is enough to make us feel for them or understand the importance of that character to him to Kaneda. But to me, I was like, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, for me, those are extra points, right? Because what I'm saying is that the story of Akira and what it's trying to say is so broad and so grand in scope, encapsulates so many parts of Japanese history, right? Which I was ignorant to before I saw the video. So I'll admit that me and Miles had this talk before, right? We're both, sinners, right? Because I didn't look up anything about Bakemonogatari, and I didn't want to, which is why I gave it a lower score than Miles, who looked it up. Miles didn't want to look up shit about Akira, which is why he gave it a lower score.
I did
or
look up
I
things
said-
about Akira. I
After-
just don't care.
Okay, that's
I don't
fine.
care either.
Fuck
I
you.
agree.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't care either. I'm sorry, Japan. I just don't.
That's fine. So my point is the story of Akira is so broad and says so many, encapsulates so many parts of Japanese like history and culture and like these movements, etc., that I no longer care about. Like, I personally didn't feel sad when people died. Lots of people fucking died. It starts off with a nuke, right? Akira starts with a nuke. lots of people die. I don't think this is trying to say something, and it says it.
Well, so I
It's
think
about the
yeah.
numbers. It's about
mean,
the importance
Well,
of
no,
the character.
so I think the important. I don't think that the fact we were supposed to feel sad. I think we were supposed to be questioning Tetsuo's humanity in that scene and wondering what he's become and what his power is doing to him. Because all we know is that that guy is his friend. Like we
Mhm.
know that guy has like one line. Like why can't I ride the bike or something like that? Like it's like that guy. I
Mhm.
think. So when he goes to the bar and gets like Kamehameha or whatever, like I think what we're supposed to recognize there is that Tetsuo's grip on his humanity is loosening. Because we know that they were close, but he still killed him because of like his own struggles and stuff. And I'm sure
Mhm.
that's supposed to represent something.
But
Um,
I'm saying, like, think about how better that scene would be if you actually got to know that character.
I know. I mean,
That's
I
what
agree
I
with you. I just don't
I
think the point of that scene is
yeah,
for us to feel sad. Like
I
if
agree.
that person could represent something other than friendship, like if they gave him some line, like I don't know, maybe it's like some jaded youth sort of thing, and like there's some movement that has like died, like some sort of lost generation Japanese equivalent, right? And then you have like I don't know, like fucking Piggy in Lord of the Flies, right? Like representing like science and technology
That's
and like
great. That's
being a
great.
fucking nerd, right? So like
Yeah.
we know these things about him, and so when he gets murdered with the stupid conch shell in his hands, and he's like, "No, please let me talk. I have the conch shell," and they just like beat him to death with fucking
They just
rocks.
drop a rock on him.
Yeah,
Excuse me, spoilers for Lord
Oh,
of the
Yeah,
Lord of the
Flies.
sorry.
Flies came out in the
Spoilers
40s.
for Lord of the Flies.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like we
I
understand
got Twilight spoiled, so
what's happening there. So like this is what I'm trying to say has. So like that
Mhm.
scene where Tetsuo kills that random quaternary character, right? If that character is more of like a tertiary or secondary character and we can both question Tetsuo's humanity and also get a sense of what he is rejecting by killing him and what
Mhm.
that person like might represent by, just learning a little bit about him and what he likes and stuff,
Mhm.
like then maybe that makes the message more profound.
I agree,
So
Miles. I will take
I
back what I said. That was great. Thank you.
Thanks.
I guess so. I don't know. I agree, but I also don't agree that like I guess this is what I'm saying. Like a lot of your criticisms are valid, right? Like I think like in terms of like storytelling in general, knowing characters so that their death is more impactful and then it helps explain. I completely agree. I just don't think the Akira story I have that we were given, um, is it would be the same. Like it would. I feel like the story would be different. In like just delivery and like if what we got was what you're explaining, I would not look up Akira like what it means. I wouldn't because I would be concerned with these characters and their journey rather than the larger plot points of what's going on in the world. And I guess that's what I'm like. I think very much what Akira wanted to do, it accomplished, and I think what it did was great and entertaining. You did not think it was entertaining, and therefore
oh,
you would rather it be a different movie in terms of like a character focused movie because at least for Tetsuo's character Tetsuo's character, at least from what I've seen, is supposed to represent like the newer generation of Japan and not being able to understand the power that they have, which is why he turned into this giant mechanized machine or whatever, which is supposed to show like the mechanized fucking growth after like the fucking nuclear after Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So, and again, this is also like we don't know anything about Japanese history. So if I didn't know anything, sure, I'd be fucking like, oh, it probably would be better. But now that I know, it makes sense. He doesn't. I don't need this character to be any closer because it has nothing to do with what that character represents. It has to do everything with Tetsuo, and him solely becoming less um he's just unaware of like the power he has and he's abusing it. Um, but I understand. Again, this is just from like, do you want to look this up? do you care?
Most
And I
most I don't know. I guess for me, most things I do usually want to look it up, but in this case, I didn't. Even though I am a big history nerd, um, I don't know why. I don't know why it was so different for me. Because again, like with other things we've talked about in the past and other anime I've seen, that I've been like, oh, I bet I'm missing something because like I didn't grow up in Japan, or I didn't
Mhm.
whatever. But also like this movie was such a success stateside too, wasn't it? Like it wasn't just like this
It
big.
made $1 million in the
Oh,
U.S. So
that's it.
that's not for 1988. That's probably not that bad.
Probably not bad, but it's still not okay.
It
So
was like 400,000 tickets or something like that. So
mhm.
whatever that equates to in terms of success.
Okay, I was gonna say, so I don't know. I guess it's less successful than I thought. I thought it was like a blockbuster, a big hit, like just like it was in Japan. So that's why I was just so surprised. Maybe I'm less surprised now because it seems like, but I don't know though. It
It
feels
was
like
a
all sorts of non-Japanese people recommend this movie to me, and I still don't understand
So
really
before we
how.
get to Happy, I think the easiest way to explain the success of Akira is it got Happy. Was it Family Guide? Um, so it's like VHS sales were like 5 times what the movie sales were, and that's like what launched it into such like a like largely successful um film. Where in the theaters, yeah, it made like I think it made like 25 million worldwide, and its budget was like 9 million. So yeah, it made money, but it's like its VHS sales is like $100 million in 1990, which is just
Wow,
bonkers. Yeah, so that's
I wonder why.
that's kind of like the success, because some people consider Akira a failure in like the theaters because it took a very long time to get its money back in terms of the theaters, but it made most of its money through the VHS sales. So there it's a debate. I don't know why it is, because like it made, at the end of the day, it made $100 million. So like who cares? Like I don't
Mhm.
know, but it's interesting. Happy, you got a point. What is it? What is it, my friend?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go on a bit of a tangent here because how many of you have seen Evangelion?
I would say most of us.
Okay,
Everyone?
I think
I
everyone.
haven't seen.
so
I have not seen End of Evangelion yet, but I
never
have
all right,
seen
seen
well,
the end.
everything
don't
else.
okay,
I
don't
haven't seen the end.
all right, don't worry, no spoilers. But the reason I'm bringing up Evangelion is because similar to Akira, it kind of has this reputation as uh the anime that a lot of people don't get because we didn't get a lot of the supplementary material that you need to understand a lot of it. But you can still enjoy it without the supplementary material, I feel, and I feel you can still enjoy it. I think I just repeated myself, but with Akira, like you're talking about, like Haz is talking about, how there's all this, uh, okay, I'm trying to form my thoughts here, but I don't care to read any supplementary material on this movie because I just don't care that much about the movie, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Versus with Eva, you did like or you
Yeah,
were curious, right? Okay, I think that's fair.
right.
I agree with you on that for sure.
I
I
think it's
do
also like
think
the.
that.
Oh, sorry, Miles. Go ahead. My
Oh
bad.
yeah, as I was gonna just say, like Ava had like 26 episodes to bring depth to its characters, and Ava has
Mhm.
like extraordinarily deep characters. Akira is a movie, so that does. I
That's
think
true.
that they could have expanded on the characters more, but I think because of the formatting, Haz's point
Ooh.
does have a lot of credence to it because like you have a thing you're trying to say and you're trying to say it in 130 minutes, as opposed to
Well, it
you
was.
know
Never mind.
7 hours or whatever
Which is
Ava
which
is.
which is why I also understand, like, if you don't want to look it up, because consequently everything has to be super broad, which does not invite the curiosity. Like you said, right? Like Kanade is just a guy, you know what I mean? So he doesn't exactly invite curiosity as to what he represents. Neither does Tetsuo, neither does any. They're just figures for people who already know. Um, Whereas I guess something like Evil, like you said, it has 26 episodes, and you may find yourself in these 26 episodes liking Shinji wrongly, or any of the other characters. Um, but and that invites your curiosity. But there's nothing inviting of Akira outside of, I would guess, the aesthetic and your own confusion and dislike for being confused.
You also bring up a good point because they are remaking Akira into a TV show, like
That's right. Yeah.
an episodic show.
So
So
like
instead of
actual anime.
so instead of getting 2 hours and 10 minutes of a movie, we're now going to get probably, I'm going to assume, 12 episodes of a show.
Okay. So I will say I'm very interested in that because I think that there's enough groundwork laid in Akira I think that like why Akira missed me is like one, things from the 80s tend to miss. Like I'm just too millennial. Like
Yeah.
Just say you're
like,
a boomer. That's all you gotta say.
No, I'm
No,
not
if he
a
was a
boomer.
boomer, he would like
80s are
stuff from
for
the 80s.
boomers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there's like one good 80s movie and it's The Heathers. So yeah.
What?
Really? That's
Yeah.
all you like? Like, hold
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
man.
I don't know.
Like,
Terminator's fine. Alien, I think, is technically in the 80s.
Alien
or was
is a
that
great
late 70s?
movie.
Aliens
is
is-
Pulp Fiction? Pulp Fiction? No.
Pulp Fiction is a bad movie.
Ooh.
like Full Metal
Yeah.
Jacket, like The Outsiders, Breakfast Club. Like, what are you doing? Like,
This
come
dude's
on,
on
Miles.
crack.
This is a take and a half. You can't just
This
throw
is
out here.
mostly a meme bit.
I know, but like
Fuck
the
them
90s
too,
had better
Uncle
movies though. Starship Troopers,
Glory, like
2.
Tomb Raider,
Um,
or not Tomb Raider.
Tomb
Raiders of the
Raider?
Lost
I don't know
Ark.
about all that.
Raiders of the Lost Ark. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like, come on, that's a great
Empire
movie.
Strikes Back. There's a lot of good 80s movies.
Yeah, there is.
That's
But
impossible.
only one. But only one.
But only one, and it's
Yeah.
Heathers.
Oh.
And so, like, I think that like, but there's like a direction style that happens with that, right? And I think it's pretty similar. There's like a lot of etherealness. Like for example, I think there's a lot of similarities stylistically that you could draw to Blade Runner, right? And I hate Blade Runner.
I am not surprised at all that you hate Blade Runner. I'm sorry. Knowing you would hate it. I know it.
I was so bored during Blade Runner, and I know that that's like, yeah, I get it. The tears and the rain, that's so sad. The androids are real people the entire time. Whatever. Declan was a replicant.
Spoilers,
And
by the way, yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
sorry
yeah.
if you haven't seen Blade Runner in the last 40 years, then my bad.
But Blade Runner 2049, though, isn't that the sequel supposed to be even better, right?
I haven't seen the sequel yet,
Oh,
but I
okay.
bet I'd like it though because it relies on modern day direction. But yeah, so I think that like that's part of Akira missing me, and I think some of the like the lack of, because I feel like stuff like more modernly that I like or no, like they insist on depth of character, right? Like character development and character arcs and like evolving complex gray areas, 47 different motivation characters is important. Pete just let us know in our Discord chat that we're at 43 minutes and we haven't got off the first topic yet. So that does say something about it. So I think Pat, do you have a closing point for us on characters?
No. I had our next transition point actually to go bounce right off of you guys. Yeah, yes, I will do that in the future. P. I was trying to do it secretly, typing as secretly as possible with the new microphone. Very difficult. But yeah, so my transition point, which this is, so you mentioned how like, Akira misses for you because of the direction. I think the main reason why Akira misses for me is I hate psychics, and I wondered how you guys felt they did psychic powers and everything in this movie, whether you thought it was well done, poorly done, because I can't have an unbiased perspective on this because I hate them. There's never once been a good story built around a psychic character or a character with psychic powers, especially to the level of what God.
Can you make a disclaimer that you haven't seen Mob Psycho yet?
Tetsuo. I'll make the disclaimer that I haven't seen Mob Psycho, but guess what? I have no interest in seeing Mob Psycho. Do you want to know why? Because it has a guy with psychic powers. Because it's a character with psychic powers. I don't know.
Incredible.
What about something that's like campy and comedy, like Saki K, where it just sort of makes fun of psychic?
Well, so I haven't seen that either. But again, it's just like I don't know. Well, that's making fun of it. I'm saying like, okay, so I guess maybe then I'll amend my general like statement then that
I
when
would.
it
You
is
could just
meant
say
to be
no. That
serious.
doesn't count. I was just wondering if that counted.
No, I think that's
all.
fair. That's a fair counterpoint to my hatred of psychics. But I don't ever think I've been like, oh wow, this is really cool, because they're so impossibly hard to like balance. Like, and I say balance because I'm a guy who plays video games a lot. But like, you know, you literally can't
use the
balance
G
them. You
word.
can't make them you can't nerf them or buff them in any way and make them like actually like fair, so to speak, right? Because like, all right, so what happens when one psychic fights another in this show or in this movie? They kind of just get to a standstill, I guess, sort of.
So
One wins, one loses. I don't know. I
they
hated it. I like,
create a new world.
yeah,
So
that. But
I mean, the psychic
You wanna
powers
know?
are supposed to be horribly imba to like, throw some, uh, early 2000s gamer terminology at you.
Mhm.
And that's because it's like super, 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 super representative of nuclear energy and like the atomic bomb and stuff, right? So like,
Right.
so those aren't balanced. Um, those
So I have
levels
They
no
are
that
interest,
not.
I guess.
No.
I guess
and
that's my
they're
point.
not. It's like the point is that you like can't control that power. You can't harness it, right? So like when you have like Tetsuo, who's like a younger character who would represent, I guess, a generation that didn't grow up seeing the devastation of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. He personally feels more capable and less guarded away from like grabbing the reins of this technology, and it backfires and corrupts him and destroys him and the world around him because he tried to harness this power that in this case is not supposed to be controllable or whatever. So like you see him doing the devastating things with it at the beginning, but eventually it consumes him. And so I think in this case, like the nature of the psychic powers being like, as you say, like unfair and hard to control and hard to define and all of these things are exactly what our director writer guy is trying to say, because it's supposed to be about how we shouldn't try to harness this energy, that it's inherently dangerous and that people are forgetting or are removed from generationally seeing the devastation. So in this case of World War III, and in reality's case of World War II.
Right. Where yeah, we don't know. We haven't on the first hand seen the devastation that it can cause. But I know so that is a fair point, and again, that is good symbolism. Like it's well done in that sense. But for my enjoyment, at least, or my interest in the movie, that's where it starts to lose me, because you could I don't know. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything else you could have used as power necessarily, right? Like for instead of psychic power, but um I don't know. For me, again, just me personally, you could have done something different, and I would have been more interested in it, because I hate psychics, and I just don't think they're fun
So
or
I think
interesting in
that
any way.
I think that you have to like there are things that I just loathe too, right? Like, but I think that when you have something that you just like irrationally hate like that, and you're looking at something critically, you have to put it aside a little bit because like as you have done here and said that it was like good symbolism and stuff, like
Yeah, it
I
is.
guess like to me, I don't think that there is a better analogy that could be made. I mean, maybe it's too simple. I'm just trying to think of other things that have like Dr. Manhattan in Watchmen is very similar, right? Like his disconnect from humanity comes from his psychic powers. He's the only superhero with psychic powers. He's representative of like this atomic energy and all of that. Like it's just, I think it's like very grokkable. Like it's easy to grasp if you're like trying to send a message. And it also, I mean, nuclear energy is like energy, right? So like having like a mental untapped energy sort of thing is just like a great parallel. I just think it fits really well. And I think it's different than when you have something like, I don't know, let's just say like My Hero Academia or something, right? Like some superhero fun, like campy thing, and then like some person has like amazing telekinetic powers and they're just not using them to their fullest extent because it would break the entire universe.
Right, it would
Like
break the world.
That's
like
Well,
this
that's how I
does
feel
break
about
the
it.
in My
world.
Hero.
Like, he's not psychic, but
No, it's just funny that in the world of My Hero Academia, guns exist, and 97% of these heroes would be killed by one single bullet. And also,
Really good.
Momo can just manifest an AK-47 from her chest. She should be the most overpowered hero in My Hero. But that would break the show.
There's really good gun laws in My Hero.
Yeah,
I think aren't guns illegal in Japan anyways. So like,
They are not.
They're very hard to get though.
Is it also
correct.
is it illegal if you can pull it out of your chest?
Absolutely
I don't know.
not.
Like that's a question we need to ask.
Certainly not registered.
Yeah,
I mean,
Does that count as
firearm,
concealed
so.
carry? These
She
are the
doesn't need a
questions.
gun rack.
Well, she has a
Yeah,
gun rack.
Yeah, that was
Sure.
damn it, he beat me to it. He beat me to the punch.
Oh.
I have to.
So we're now a My Hero podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, I don't know. Like, I understand you hating psychic powers. There are tropes that I hate too, or things that I just don't like. But I think that even if I did hate psychic powers, and I don't, I think they're neat. I used to pretend I had psychic powers when I was like 6.
You're a Shinibio? Oh my god, that's good to know.
I mean, I didn't go around like
There's a
school
single
doing
person who
it. Like,
hasn't
I don't
tried
know.
to do
I was
something
like
like that.
6. I
You-
played pretend with my friends.
You never went bowling and pretended to have the force? Like,
have you never tried to grab a beer off the table using the force?
I have. Okay, so
Literally, everyone
Yeah,
has done that at least
like,
once.
You know,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
but I just think it's like very, and I'm the only person who's talked about this, so I'm gonna shut the fuck up soon and let other people say things. But I think it's, I guess like, God, am I talking myself into liking this movie? Let's ignore that right now.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Keep going. Keep going.
Has, what are your thoughts on the powers?
Symbolism is
The
good.
symbolism is. So my thought on a power, I thought it was all super dope. At the time, here's the thing, right? As I hit this Danganronpa bullet time. I'm a sucker. Yeah. I'm a sucker for shonen shit, right? I just don't like it in shonen with all the context of shonen, right? Because shonen is cringe. Nukes going off is not cringe. So I'm a real big fan of like all the psychic shit and what it represents. I think personally, what I also really enjoyed, which I saw not in a video, but like in a comment, was that and this might be obvious to other people, but I'm a little ignorant fuck. Yeah.
I just like how you put it. Like I guess I think we all are in our own ways.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Not me,
I like
not
that.
at all.
No,
No.
not at
No,
all.
not
No.
at all.
I like that in Japan, at least in these earlier films, a lot of like testing on people created monsters rather than like Captain America, right? Like I was a big fan of like the all the kids representing like the nuclear powers look like really aged, like they had been through some shit. They had been through some shit. Um, I don't know, just the symbolism was super dope.
I think that's a really good point, actually. Like, I like that, right? Because it shows the negative effects of unlocking this power.
Yeah, like that was super dope. I thought like the very end where like they all like it was super dope. I also thought it was really funny how the kids that were tested on, um, that were like stuck in these younger bodies but like way older, um, and Tetsuo, who's like supposed to be like this newer age person with these powers, um, I like that they were always like wiser than him. But like they look like just younger people who had been through some shit. Like they were like in these baby
Yeah.
bodies and shit. I always thought that was super dope. And a little funny. So yeah,
It was
I don't know.
creepy
It was
to me. I was creeped out the whole time. Yeah.
The little blue people?
Yeah.
Yeah, the people that look like microwave raspberries or whatever.
Happy, you had a question for Pat?
Okay, yes, I did. So you say you hate psychics. So then what's your opinion on Elfin Lead?
I haven't seen it yet. I keep nominating it
that's
for
why
Watch
he
Club
keeps
because I want to see
I,
it.
I know, I know. That's
Does that mean I'm
that's
gonna
my
hate
point.
it? That's great. Okay, good
I
to
don't,
know.
I don't
They're
know.
not
'cause
nominated.
Okay, so I want to give Akira some props for doing a thing that I said it should have done, but just like later than it did it. So when Tetsuo kills Kaori, that's a character that we've had fleshed out enough to like have meaning and stuff, and like associate Kaori with Tetsuo's humanity. She's the first person he goes and visits, like after he's out of the hospital. We know like he helps protect her and stuff. Like they love each other enough, like at least in the way that like high schoolers do. And so like I think that like that added depth adds to the symbolism of the scene when he's like becoming the horrible flesh abomination. Because he's freaking out about it and he like can't stop himself, and like he's still like I guess like unintentionally causes her death because of what he is unleashed, basically. So while we're talking about him and like his power and stuff like that, I think that that's like a better example of the exact same scene, basically with a very similar meaning, where he like murks the random dude in the gang who wasn't very good at driving motorcycles.
Well, there's steps to it, right? I don't, yeah, I don't know. It's all about like bros before hoes, but I'm gonna keep it a stack.
Okay.
I don't know if
Well, he killed the
on
bro
that step.
before the hoe. So.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like if
you
I
gotta kill your bros before you kill the.
If I had to like level right, like at what point is Hastic gone off the deep end, right? Which was as soon as I decided to read Human Echo. But like, if I kill Miles, whatever. If I kill my girlfriend, that's very different, right?
Yeah, 100% different.
So different. Yeah, totally.
Can we assess this? Can we rewind a little bit? Dude, I'll give this a 10. Please don't kill me.
You're wedding now?
Yeah.
September is gonna be
has invite is rescinded.
Yeah, it's gonna be your
fear.
wedding and your funeral at the same time.
So I have a general question real quick, because it's something that I was thinking this whole time watching this movie too. So maybe, you know what? Maybe I came in expecting a simpler movie, because how the hell is this Kanye West's favorite anime? Like how is someone
Oh, I can
I'd
answer
love
that
to
question.
please Kanye, please come on the podcast and explain yourself. I would love to have you on and hear you talk about this. Like how, because this is such a complex and like deep story, right? I don't understand.
Well, Kanye's really smart. So like when he has bipolar disorder.
Right.
Like he's insane. Like I guess it's a rude thing to say someone with a diagnosed mental illness, but like he does not handle it and control it well, and he's very in the public eye, right? And he's like also like egomaniacal and stuff. But
well,
like,
that's like he thinks he's. I think Kanye thinks he's Tetsuo. I think Kanye like that. That was my thought while watching the movie. I was like, he must just like emulate him or think he's.
No
great,
one man
right?
should have all that power. Like that is actually partly inspired by Tetsuo. But
why do you think he ran for president? Like
but like when Kanye first was on the scene, right? Like his personality was like super different than it was. He was known as like the pink polo rapper. He was like considered very humble and like analytical and all of these like different things. And that's obviously the man wrote a song called "I Am a God." So it's changed
a lot
a bit.
Of power. He did get a lot of power. Maybe so much so that one man should have it. Almost.
Yeah, but like
so much so that he blows up and starts World War III. I don't know.
That's the third verse.
Yeah.
So
just wait till his next album. Yeah.
This makes a lot of sense to me because a lot of Kanye's music is about like introspection about like his own success and like the power he wields and like class dynamics and like things like that. And this sort of goes at a lot of that, with underclass issues and people being like risen out of that and given, too much power in this case or too much influence or whatever. It's obviously not like a perfect parallel to Kanye's music career, thank fucking God, but like
well, it's got a really bad ending, so there you go.
I know, God, rest in peace, Yeezus, the last good Kanye album. And so like You know what? Honestly, fuck it.
like
He just
Apollo.
wasn't that good.
I
It
like
wasn't.
Apollo.
Thank you,
Great.
Miles. Finally, somebody said it.
I love it.
Yeah, you know,
Um,
we thought it was supposed to be good because my Dark Beautiful Twisted Fantasy had just happened, and
Best
we
album
were
of
like,
all time.
yeah, and like we were just like,
Whoa,
oh,
now.
this is fine. I guess it's
Yeah.
good. I really
I'm
like
on the same page as you
Blood
are.
on the Leaves. So yeah, Jesus is bad. You heard it here first. Anyways, point being, like I guess it makes a lot of sense to me that this is Kanye's favorite movie because
Now that we talk about it more, I guess it makes a little more sense to me. But I still think that I'm just like, wow, like I like how has he not seen anything else though that might have like because if he gets this like hot and bothered by Akira, then how does he
so
not
he's
get
seen Spirited Away. I know because he was
Right.
talking on Twitter about why Akira is better than Spirited Away.
Mhm. Ghost in the
and-
Shell? I feel like he's probably seen
Well,
too.
so
I
like
feel
he's
like
seen Darling in the Franks
Well,
because
Kim
because
has.
because
has-
Kim.
yeah,
Yeah, okay,
Kim
I'm
has.
sure Kim watched that on her own. You know what? Kim
She-
Kardashian, come on the podcast.
Yeah.
If
Open
you watch that
invitation.
independent of your weeb husband, let me know.
I wonder if
Honestly-
Kanye's ever asked her to
Honestly,
possibly do it,
accuse
too.
me of like assuming because I am assuming. I'm assuming that you got into it because you married a man who was into it. I just think that makes a lot of sense. That's how I got into RuPaul's Drag Race.
And
So-
now the Kanye podcast. Holy fuck. We just been. What a
That's
Yeah,
what
I-
a podcast
just
is.
talking on.
Okay, so
podcast.
I don't know. It's time for us to give our final thoughts, I guess. Which, fuck that, because there's so much more we could talk about in this show. There's just like a lot to say.
I wanted to say something regarding the comment about this being a complex story. I think definitely like understanding all the parts requires quite the investigation of Japanese culture. But I think even on your first watch through, I think it's pretty apparent that this is about like Japan's dependency on nukes. Maybe all the other like symbolism and like where people stand and what they represent. And like why is Akira under the fucking stadium, like why all that shit, like yeah, it's definitely hidden underneath, but like I still think on the surface there's a story there that's being told that you can understand. And as far as this will not be affecting the ratings at all, but uh character development in terms of Akira, I definitely know because it was a movie, it was cut. Because characters that you see in the movie have way more in the manga, such as Lady, I forget her name, Lady Kikyo, who is the leader of the occult movement that you see all die on a fucking bridge, which was great.
Yes.
She
That scene was
essentially
pretty
got,
funny, not gonna lie.
yeah. So this right now, what I'm about to say does not affect anything because it was not in the movie, but just for like the sake of people who want to know, she guides essentially Tetsuo on his way to becoming Akira or like finding Akira. And she's like probably the only character that whatever. There's like some shit about like becoming a sovereign nation that Kanade and K like fucking declare that, tell everyone else to fuck off if you cross our borders or some shit. So yeah, you know, there's a bit more if you want to read the manga and see what's up with these characters. If you don't like the movie.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. That is a good point. All right. So I guess we do move on to our final thoughts. So Miles, why don't you lead us off with your final thoughts and your score for
Sure.
Akira?
Oh God. So like, this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed talking about this. I ended up defending Akira a lot more than I thought I was going to defend Akira. Akira's really interesting. I think there's a lot of depth there. The issue that I had with Akira, and this is unfortunately just like a really big issue for media, is that I was super bored while I was watching it. And like, I don't know if I wasn't giving it enough credit or I had a bad day. I don't know what it was, but I didn't have fun with it. I didn't really like it. I didn't connect with the characters that much. I am in no worlds Akira's target audience, so I think that that's probably fine. However, Akira does like a ton of things right. You know, it's beautiful. It gives me that like fun like 80s neon vibe that's like really exciting. Like the way that the lights hung in the background like it was like Tron or something. You know, that was cool. Neo Tokyo looked freaking sick. There's a lot of good stuff in there. And I did like, I guess like the story was good. I just didn't connect with any of the characters, and there were individual scenes that I thought were like fantastic. Like when Tetsuo just like explodes the people in the hallway. That was like a very like holy fuck scene, right? Like just and like his trips and stuff where he was like coming in and out of reality were kind of neat. I don't know, like, catch me again in like a year or whatever. But I think I'm gonna give it a 7, but like it's really good, and it's just like this is like a mild 7, but it's watch this movie because I understand people giving this a 10. Like I get it. So like don't if don't
Do you understand people giving 10s to Violet Evergarden?
I
Because that's
actually
another thing you gave 7. So.
I don't understand that.
Okay.
I don't. Akira is better than Violet Evergarden, for sure. And that's what I got.
Coming in hot.
There's
someone
the
cut
classic
him off.
Miles.
Let's move on.
Yeah, there's the classic Miles take to
Yeah.
wrap things
I
up.
love it.
All right, Az, what have you
poked
got?
the bear.
I did poke the bear.
You did.
I did.
Yes, you fucked up.
I guess so.
Yeah, so I did not go into this. Usually when things are hyped up as legendary, they usually leave a sour taste in my mouth because I am nothing if not a fucking hipster. I also have probably the second worst taste here, but I'm very proud of that.
Thanks, Miles.
Yeah, no problem. I was gonna say worse, and then I looked to my right, or left for everyone on stream. Yes, but it was really cool. I think a lot of the characters, like just because of my life experiences and where I live, like I felt them. I love the aesthetic. I wish more anime was in this setting. More good anime was in this setting. Um, I think it was all handled uh pretty well. And it, unlike Bakemonogatari, which me and Miles are gonna hold each other to better standards in the future. But unlike Bakemonogatari, I felt the need to like look up what's going on, and it just made it that much better. Kanade is the fucking goat. He shot at God with a laser gun, and when it didn't work, he just said "fuck." Now
Shot him
that's
again.
and then shot him again. That's some big dick shit. And that's yeah,
That's a call. That's a
I-
callback.
yeah, that's a fucking callback. I love this movie. Are we giving our number? Or?
Yep.
Yes, we are giving our
Yeah,
number.
okay.
Yep.
I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10, and the only reason it's not a 10 out of 10 is because I wish it was ever so slightly longer. Because I think if there was one piece of cut content I really wanted to see, it had to do with like the the nations thing that is covered in the manga and like becoming a sovereign nation. That seemed really dope. But other than that, it was fucking great. So
All right. No, 9 out of 10. That's fair. All right, Johnny, what have you got?
So one scene I want to mention real quick, just like I can't believe none of us talked about it, is the fact that Tetsuo literally went into outer space and freaking crushed a satellite.
He
Like,
hacked
how
it.
did none of us talk about
He
that?
hacked the satellite and then
I
lasered
did.
lasered all the
Yeah.
civilians.
I sort of talked about it. It's a psychic
Yeah.
power. It's dumb. Okay, there we
Yeah,
go.
so,
Moving
like,
on.
Well,
Dope.
yeah,
No,
but like
it's dumb.
yeah, so like there were a lot of like scenes like that, and honestly, like first like the animation is really good. It was just like I just couldn't get into the story, like Miles said, and I understand the message it's trying to tell. Is just in terms of enjoyability, I just couldn't get myself into it. I just thought it was boring. Like when I say this, it's no ways like am I trying to say that like the message is trying to tell is like there's something wrong with it. I completely agree with the message. It's just I don't find it interesting. And for that reason, my score is going to be a 6 because, like, even though I understand the appeal about it, I can definitely understand why some people like this way more than me. It just doesn't appeal to me. I don't find it interesting.
Fair enough. I think that's fair. All right, Pete, what have you got?
Yeah, before I give like my rating, there's 2 quotes in the movie that made me gut laugh. There was one where Yamagata is in like the school. He's like the guy in the introductory scene where he goes and gets some at the bar, and a kid walks into the classroom and goes, "Today's independent study," and he just responds immediately with, "Well, how am I going to quench my thirst of knowledge then? Come back, you old geezer." It's just like obviously he's just like smoking cigarettes. He's like obviously not paying attention to anything that's going on. I love that scene. There's another scene where it is Kaneda and Kei, and they are in like a prison cell, and the prison cell gets unlocked, and Kei goes, Kaneda goes, "This must be a trap," and then Kei's like, "Let's go back." And he's like, "No, I have to see how much of a trap it is." And
Yes,
I thought
that was funny.
so funny because like Kaneda's character the whole time was do and then think later, like.
Yep.
And I felt that's why I loved him, because like he never really changed his character the whole time. Just like, I'm gonna do whatever I want all the time, and then whatever the repercussions are afterwards, then I'll figure it out. And if we were doing like a best boy or best character, he was my best character. The things I liked about Akira, there were some things that I also didn't like about Akira. We did mention it a little bit before, but I think there are some really close tie-ins to Neon Genesis. I think what it didn't do that Neon Genesis did, it was leave us with like a mystery of maybe wanting more. I know when I finished Neon Genesis, like I wanted to know who Nerve was. Like I wanted to know more about like the backstory between like the angels and why like his mom is an EVA Unit 1. Like tell me more about like what the hell is going on in this world. For Akira, I didn't really get that. Like that extra mystery of me wanting more out of it. And I think it would have been, I think I would want more if we had like more character development, because like you say, it was a movie. I think if we got the episodic show where we could develop the characters more and maybe be more like the storyline with the manga than compared to the movie, I think it would benefited greatly and it would leave me with that mystery of wanting more. So that's just like the negative things about Akira that I didn't like. The positives, I thought the animation was stunning, even for a 1988 film. It was blowing my mind. You can tell where the budget went into, because I was like, some of these animations in this movie are better than what we see in some anime today. And we are in 2021. And I was like, good job, whatever studio did this. Like this, you did a really good job at it. I really enjoyed the symbolism that we saw throughout the show, even if I had to go and look it up. Afterwards, I thought they did a really good representation of like Pat didn't like the psychic, but the psychic's like representing like nuclear power. I thought that was really cool. I thought that was really easy to understand as well. I can see how this could be a little confusing at some parts, but I thought for the most part I could follow along with the story really well. I had a really good time watching it. We don't do decimals because I'd be hovering at like that 8.5 range, so I'm gonna give it an 8. And I think it has the potential of being better when we get the TV show. So I'm looking forward to that.
Fair enough. All right. Happy. What have you got?
So, I love you guys. I love listening to you guys. But listening to you talk about Akira for an hour made me care about it even less than I did before.
Appreciate
it's
it.
not your it's not it's not your fault, really. I do enjoy listening to you guys, but I just
Aw.
don't I just don't care. It is
Masterfully
very
put
well
together,
animated, though. I
6
will
out of
give
10.
it that. And the music is good. And it's just I just don't care for the story at all. Like that's not fair. I do care for some of the characters, like I said, Canada and the science. But other than that, it's just kind of So I'm gonna give it a 7, which is probably high considering everything I've said. But yeah.
You are correct.
I'm not sure anyone else heard it, but Miles, as he said it, said masterfully put together, 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
I just fuck me, man.
Oh, that's so funny.
I mean, if that's what he says, that's what he says. So
Happy, I love you too, buddy. I fucking love you. Don't never change. Just
How we rate thing, like I thought Pete was gonna give this a 10, and then Happy was like,
yeah.
I've never been more bored. I got even more bored when I listened to you fucks talk about it for an hour. It it sucks. The show isn't good. I guess like the music was fine, and like Kaneda was an okay character, and Albert Einstein was neat. Anyways, 7 out of 10. I was just like,
I think I was less harsh on it for flag breaks, honestly.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Okay.
If you haven't subbed to our channel yet, if you haven't subbed, I don't know what the fuck you're doing. Like, this is the
Yeah.
greatest podcast of all time. The best people will show up here. We might as well change our shit from whatever it is that like people in blogs to fucking comedy, because
Yeah.
that's what you're getting here.
That was good. Happy. I gotta say, I started typing like 5 or 6 on my keyboard, or I was hovering over it with my hand to document it, and caught me off guard with that 7. Good for you. I respect it. I respect it. All right. So for me, my final thoughts. Again, I kind of already went off about psychics and stuff and why I didn't like it. A joke that I thought of, or thought I had while I was watching this, is that Pete must love this anime because there's a person with a robot arm in it. So I thought that was
You got me there.
I did, didn't I? And then sure enough, what did you talk about? You talked about how much you loved that scene, or how much you like this movie. So there we go. We're starting to learn learn your taste. I also wrote down the scene where it's all the government people sitting around in a circle. I wrote down, I was like, oh, this is like an Ava reference. But then I was like, but wait, it's not an Ava reference because this was made 10 years before Ava was. So
it's a Gundam reference.
yeah, it's like, oh, wait a minute. It's not. Yeah, so it's not an Ava reference. Ava is referencing Akira, which means everything's an Akira reference now, right? Like,
Don't tell Ava fans though.
no, definitely
Yeah.
don't. Yeah, because otherwise they'll get very mad at you. But yeah, so I had, again, made me laugh. I'm sure it didn't make anyone else laugh what I just said. There was one other scene too that we didn't talk about, and we shouldn't have talked about it because it's just so random. It's when how does the colonel? They're like,
Mhm.
oh, hey, colonel, we're usurping your power. And then he's like, what?
He said,
No, fuck you. I'm shooting you. Shoots the guy. The guy who shoots the guy gets shot. The colonel says, stop. Everyone just stops. Well, how does that not end in a shootout or something? Like, and also the guy who just lost his power just said stop, and all the people who aren't supposed to listen to him listen to
He
him.
literally just pulled an Uno
right?
reverse card and
He
just
looks
like
Napoleon, but it's just like, it's
It's a
stupid.
military coup.
So
I was
from
just
what
confused.
from what I understand from other Japanese things I've read, and this, if anyone here is listening and you know stuff about Japanese history and I'm super wrong, leave a comment, and I admit it. This is a lot of extrapolation. There seems to be an issue that they have, or a cultural phenomena that they have, with old guard militaristic people. And this was especially true in like the 70s and 80s, from like the World War II era. Those people were all like up at top and like generals now, right? And they hadn't quite let go of like the imperialism sort of attitude that Japan had back during the war. So this old guard general guy who's getting usurped by this like quasi democratic, committee or whatever, and like that, in him just like rejecting that and rallying that, I think is probably emblematic of that. It might not be, but from what I've gathered,
Maybe, yeah.
there's that. So I think that scene was to show the resistance of like the old guard to being usurped, basically, that they are not backing down, that they are not accepting new people into the scene, that they are maintaining their control for as long as they can.
Okay. Or it could also just be, oh, this guy just proving that, oh, this guy didn't want to give up power, so he didn't. I don't know. Like, it could be either.
Yeah, or
It could be either.
badass. I don't know.
I don't, again, but I just saw that scene. I was just like, wait, so how did 2 shots got fired and then suddenly everyone stops because he said stop?
I think
really?
it's just like charisma, though, right? I mean, it literally,
Maybe.
there's historical precedent for that, right? Like Napoleon did the Napoleon thing,
Right.
where he just like jumped out on the boat and was like, "Shoot me, bitches!" and then they didn't because he was charismatic.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't. Again, that
History
scene just
made you
stood out to
proud
me, and I
over
was just
here.
like, wait, did that really just like? How does Did we just gloss over that? Like in the movie,
We
it just
glossed
moves
over a
on,
lot of
and
things in the movie.
no, I'm saying the movie itself though did. I was like, the
Yes.
movie just glosses over that,
No,
glosses
I
over the
don't.
military or the generals, like
Yeah.
or the people sitting at that table, never get brought up again. The not the mad scientist, but the guy in charge who does the pills and then or is having a heart attack or so. I don't recall him ever being mentioned again either, or I don't even know who he was or what his importance was. Again, I bet if I went back and watched it again or studied it or looked stuff up, maybe I'd get more of it. But I shouldn't have to do that, I don't think, to at least understand the film at a base level
So
versus
I guess I would argue that you should because we're not at all the target audience. So my thought would be that if you were the average Japanese viewer, and maybe even world viewer from 1988, right, that these sort of tropes and characters might be more apparent to us because we've consumed media and lived in society in such a way that like we are just more familiar. Like they don't need to define these people potentially. I again do not know that this is the case, but
Mhm.
because they are known by the audience and because it is a piece that is very meant for the time that it was written. So like we don't need to have or they didn't need further explanation on who these people were because they knew who these people were because of like tropes or character archetypes that were very present in media in the day or people and players in like that political sphere that were well known. You know, like if you have a president on a TV show and he's talking in a southern accent and he's kind of dumb, you understand what that's supposed to be, and there doesn't need to be any more explanation for that. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, it's W.
That sounds
you
like
know?
a bad show. Yeah.
W.
So like, you know, that scientist guy, like maybe he's someone, maybe that general is someone. I do not know. Like,
Yeah.
but I, from what I have seen of Akira, I'm willing to give it enough credit. And I had the same issue with you, and that's why I gave it because I'm not that person. But I do think that in order to properly appreciate something that is almost 30 years old, that is written to be 30 years old, that some of that responsibility does lie on me.
I think it does a little bit, but I think too much of it then maybe I guess was my point. Because again, like I do like with shows in the past where I've been confused or where I've had to do outside research to fully understand it, I have enjoyed doing that, or I have wanted or had a desire or an urge to after watching it to do so.
Yeah, I do agree with you.
But in this case, this is like I shouldn't say I had no interest, but it's the least interest I've ever had in terms of like looking things up afterwards.
The characters don't beg questions, in my opinion, which is a thing we've discussed, right? Like it's not. There's no mystery to who they are, I think, and that's part of the thing.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
agree.
so to circle back, again, it just felt like the movie was all over the place as well, which I guess again, now that we've talked about it more, it's not as all over the place as I thought it was, but again, I was shocked. Like that, the final like 20 minutes of this movie were so chaotic. It was very difficult for me to follow. So I ended up giving it a 6 out of 10, which is a lot lower than I thought I would. I thought going into this that at the lowest I was going to think that it was like an 8 out of 10 movie, but yeah, no. I have no idea. I don't know. I just was not this is probably the most disappointed I've been in like a show that has been hyped up so much for me before, other than no, more so even than Eva, where when I first watched Eva and I was like, really? Like this is what everyone's so crazy about? And like yeah, we can talk more about that another time. But yeah, I was just disappointed. So I think that might be why I'm giving it a 6 instead of like a 7. Like it probably deserves a 7, but I'm gonna give it a 6 because I'm mad at it.
You know what? I've talked myself up to an 8 though. Can you push me up to an 8?
Let's go, Miles.
It's like the most boring 8 I've ever watched in my entire life. But I can't. I'm sorry. I just can't. All I have done is defend this thing. It's the only thing I've done. I can't give it a 7. I've just sat here and defended it the entire time. I don't know. I just mark me down for whatever. I don't know. I don't know what I think. This is gonna break my mind. This is sort of like when I watched End of Evangelion. I felt disgusted. Thought it was a 3. Thought about it for like the next 7 years of my life every single day, and was like, "Wow, this is really good." And so instead of feeling disgusted Akira made me feel really bored, but I have psyched myself out that maybe I was supposed to feel bored. Maybe I was supposed to feel so bored that I questioned what Akira was about.
I take
Maybe
full
Akira's
credit.
taking over you.
I take full credit for this W by
Yeah.
sending that video that he watched.
I'm Tiger
I-
Woods fist pumping right now. Let's go.
That's W.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Okay, but it also doesn't make sense for me to give this the same score as Pete. But I don't know.
I
don't
said
know.
I would give
We're
it
not
an
going to worry
8.
about it.
I
We're not
said
going to
I would
worry
give
about
it
it.
an
I can't.
8.5.
I honestly can't decide what my score is.
It's okay. You already made me redo the
Score.
calculations, and then I deleted the other average score. So now I
So-
don't remember what this average score was when you had a 7.
Okay, that's
so,
fine. Let's
so
just
now,
keep it at
now
an
we're
8.
keeping it at an 8.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I really don't know what
It's
to think
okay.
about this.
Just give us a score.
So our scores average out to a 7.33, which is about
Pretty low.
0.8 points lower than Mal. So that's actually a pretty significant change or difference from what we normally have. I don't know. Again, I think it's I think that's surprising. I thought going in that we would all like this movie, or at least enjoy it. I have never heard someone really speak poorly about it, other than, again, like Johnny said, other podcast members or people have said like, oh, it's okay now. Like it didn't age as well as other things might have. But again, it's not even that it aged poorly. It's just that, like Miles keeps bringing up, we're not necessarily the target
I
audience.
think it's just the only people who talk about it are the people who like the show, obviously. Since
That also happens, especially when a show is this old, right? Where it's not like a
Mhm.
seasonal where people are watching it and dropping it and hating it. So I think that's a good point as well. All right, but now let's move on and reveal what show we are watching for our next meeting, which happens to be our 1-year anniversary, or as close to it as we can get,
Let's go.
of Anime Watch Club. So
Let's
I have to say
go.
first, thank you to everyone who supported us and who has watched us over the course of the past year. Miles and I, when we first started this club a year ago, could not have thought that we would have gotten, for one, such a wonderful cast of members and people supporting us, voting for shows, giving their own opinions as well in our Discord. Join our Discord. Sick plug, Pat. Thanks, Pat.
Sick plug.
Thank you. We never could have imagined it being this successful, or the fact that it would even last more than like 5 meetings. So now
Yes.
we're on like probably like 25-ish or
That sounds
so.
about right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Right.
half a year, right? Every 2 weeks we meet. So yeah, we're coming up on our 1 year.
there's 48 weeks in a year, I think. So
I think there's 52, Johnny. But
56.
yeah,
I think 40
or
wait,
or
there
something.
Wow. I thought you were joking. Oh.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm pretty sure there's 52.
I don't know. I just did quick maths in my head. It's close enough.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Johnny.
It ended up being only one off of how many episodes we had, so yes.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, so again, thank you all for listening, and I'm so glad that we started this a year ago, and I can't wait to keep it going for another year at least. Let's do it.
At least another year.
At least I hope so.
To the moon.
To the Doge.
To the moon,
baby. Let's
to the
go.
moon. Elon, come and join us, please.
Yeah,
sure.
Elon, come on the podcast. I promise not to make fun of your family's pro-apartheid movement and your dad owning an emerald mine and all the other things too much.
Christ.
Yeah, but he made Venmo though, so it's pretty sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did
What are we
like-
watching?
Hey, do you like anime
Watching.
titties?
Oh yeah, okay. So
Yeah, break our hearts.
Yeah, this is gonna be.
This
you all
is-
voted for it. It was
No,
on
I
every
didn't.
ballot except for mine.
Miles, we all voted for Blood Blockade Battlefront as well. So
That's true. Okay, so in last place we had One Punch Man. In second to last place we had Erased. In third to last, but because we only have 5 things and with only one more point than Erased, it gets another legacy point. We have When and There, Here, and How. So that's exciting.
Pat's show, typical. Yeah, the second,
Yes.
third place. Yes. Of course.
In second place, with a very strong showing, we have Hina Matsuri. And that means that we will be watching Rosario to Vampire.
I can't believe this.
Fucking God!
this
yeah.
is gonna be great.
So, one, I just want to say this gives me a hat trick of 3 shows in a row.
Is that a turkey? then?
Is
No.
A
What?
turkey? Like in bowling?
Oh,
free
you're
straight?
such a
Oh yeah, it's like
bowler.
a bowling turkey. Yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, so Rosario to Vampire. That's what we're going to be watching. Pete has been asking for something like this for a long time. He said he wanted to
Yes.
watch an ecchi.
Good
Um,
etchy. Good
yeah.
etchy.
So that's an oxymoron. So we're getting
Yeah,
the,
that is.
You're wrong,
And-
Miles. You're in
That's
the
wrong.
wrong medium. Go
No,
read
I-
a book.
High School of the Dead is good. High School of the Dead is good.
I
so we
would say
can't-
the only good ecchi is Food Wars,
Hold on.
and yeah.
Doesn't Konosuba count as an ecchi?
Konosuba does
It
count
is
as an
actually.
ecchi.
Does it count?
Definitely
It's not
ecchi.
on Mel.
It's super
It
edgy.
is
not.
very much an ecchi.
It's not on.
I have to say,
No.
after rewatching
No.
the first episode, I am reminded
Prison
that how
schools
etchy
are-
it is because it is
Yeah, it's
something.
the succubus episode.
Don't
has
try-
There's the succubus episode too, but I haven't
The
gotten to
first
that
time you
yet.
see Aqua, her ass is in front of you. So like,
Also,
Yeah.
the 4th and 9th and 12th time you see Aqua.
Yeah, the entire first episode, it is every cut to.
So it's an
Anyway.
etchy. Mal is wrong.
Mal is wrong. What's new?
Mel's never done that before.
Exactly. What's new?
Okay, so that's what we're gonna be watching. Let's
Uh,
go.
Pete, I didn't notice until I checked the stream, but Pete is gone right now. But
No, I'm
he'll be
here.
back. You're here. Okay.
I had to get prison school because there's good etchy out there, and I have to educate these fools.
I
Go to
guess
prison
so.
School.
Or
Yeah,
go
so
to
what's
High
your
School of the
opinion
Dead.
on prison school?
My opinion on Prison School, it has the second worst ending in manga history.
Yeah.
Manga history.
That's why we're
okay,
watching
so
the anime.
Yeah.
But we're not. So there we
holy
go.
fuck. One day.
We're not because we're watching.
Yeah, Rosario Vampire. Sorry, we're watching that art
All
instead.
right, but now we are nominating for our episode on the 31st of May. So that'll be the last day of May, the penultimate day, and we will be just nominating normal shows, so, or whatever the hell you want. We might have a special theme to nominate for the next week that I've been thinking about for a while. But yeah. So what shows have you got, Miles? Do you have your? Oh, you probably don't have yours because
I do.
You didn't
do.
know Rosario Vampire was going to win.
Yeah,
so,
I didn't.
you know,
As
you
I
didn't
often,
know.
I often try to explain, like I don't win, even though I count the votes, and I knew I won.
and
yeah, I
you
do.
win like every week. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, let's try to lose this week. I think maybe too many people have seen this, but it's a show that I want to talk about because I have some hot takes on it, and I want to continue my role of hot takes here. So I'm going to be nominating the 2010 spring anime Angel Beats.
Ooh, a reason to go back and finish it. There we go. Okay.
you're gonna. Wow.
Yeah, let's not vote for that.
No, I'm gonna vote for that. That's gonna be fun as hell. Has, what have you got?
Well, shout out
You
to
already
Miles.
won this week. I was gonna say
Yeah.
you basically won this
Season
week.
two.
So
Season
Shout out-
two.
He is doing it, I believe.
So shout out to Miles for first off, coming in clutch when I couldn't be here. I was wired shut. Hopefully for the last fucking time ever. If these doctors knew how to do their goddamn job, but that's besides the point. I'm just gonna ride the high, man. There's a rule in Watch Club. Not sure if you've been around for it. We haven't used it yet, but I'm gonna use it. Which is when we watch a show, you can get to the second season, but you have to watch the first season first. So we're gonna put up the masterful continuation of Rosario the Vampire Capu 2.
oh my god.
And
All right.
Insert the goofy meme. I'll do it again.
I'll do it again.
and you'll vote for it again. Just like you guys always do. Never learning.
Yeah.
All right.
We never learn.
No, we don't. Johnny, what have you got?
Speaking of, I'm just gonna nominate the show I nominated like 4 times already. That was a part-timer, so yeah.
Oh,
Got
Devil's a
nothing
part
else.
timer. Okay. All right.
that
Maybe
is
I'll
a very
win,
good
like,
chance
past
of
show.
winning.
That's another etchy show, isn't it? Or is it not?
No, it's not etchy at all.
Oh, it isn't? Oh, I
Not
thought it
even
was.
close.
It's like reverse isekai.
Oh, okay. So it's not.
That doesn't stop it from being.
Yeah, I was just saying
but
like that. Yeah.
their outfits look far too humble.
Modest.
He works
I
at
guess, yeah.
McDonald's. Like,
Yeah.
Could be sexy at McDonald's. I don't know.
it could be sexy
It
McDonald's.
could be. But yeah, Pete, what have you got?
Let's just re-up Hinamatsuri because that shows gas.
Okay. I respect it. Happy, what about you?
All right, so I'm about to make a really big mistake. I'm going to nominate Serial Experiments Lane from
Okay.
1998.
Oh, what is this? The get the miles vote?
Yes,
that how
it
we're
is.
doing
That's
it?
definitely what he's doing. Yeah.
Actually, no, it's actually the steering miles the heck away.
Oh,
really?
I mean,
Well,
Oh, you picked the wrong show.
Okay, fine.
Well, I like it though. That's interesting. Wow, we've got
I'm
some good
excited.
nominations.
Oh my
This is the
God.
first time I'm excited to vote. I gotta say, in a while. Gosh, okay, so I guess it's my turn, and I could just re-up the same show and I don't know, ride out the legacy points until it eventually wins.
Now and then, here
yeah.
and now.
Yeah, now and then sometimes I think about it. I still think we'll eventually watch it. So yeah, let's do that again. I don't know, man. I am shocked that we don't want to watch something that inspired what's some of our favorite genres in isekai and in like drama and just sci-fi in general. I'm shocked that we haven't.
I used
again,
to
it's
think
come
that
close so
I
many
liked
times.
isekai. Like I used to think that because like the
Mhm.
first isekai I watched was Konosuba. I guess sort of like whatever. So like
Mhm.
I was like, this is probably good and representative of the genre. And then like I just like watched some more of them, and they're all not very good. Like
They're okay.
none of them are really that good. And
Half of isekais
Cautious
are
Hero?
pretty bad.
what?
Cautious Hero?
Cautious Hero is really good. Yeah, that's a good point. You make honestly, Cautious Hero might be better than Konosuba. I
Cautious
just
Hero
like
is better. It is.
yeah, it's so
You're
good.
kidding, right?
No,
No,
it's
I'm
so
not.
funny.
It's way better
It's
than
so funny.
Konosuba.
God,
It's way funnier.
Barista is just such a great character.
Yeah, it's fucking
Um,
hilarious.
Oh God,
You just
and
broke
like
my heart. What is
it
this
like
take?
relies way less on like tropes and stuff. And like season 2 of Konosuba exists though,
Yeah.
and
the movie.
the Axis Town is like really good. I haven't watched the movie. I read the
you
book.
watched the movie?
Wait, you haven't watched the
Watch the movie.
Konosuba movie?
Yeah, I read the light novel.
Oh,
Get
that's
at me,
right.
you fucking
Shut up.
adaptation
Shut up, you
peasants.
fucking nerd.
So
Look,
I don't read books. My eyes are
Oh,
too
Pete,
sophisticated.
I can't read more than 7 words strung together at once.
Humpty
Oh,
Dumpty.
is that a racist joke I see there?
Oh man.
What?
What?
It was-
Racist against who?
He called you.
No,
said
you're telling me I can't see?
no, he
No.
said Pete.
I said
Oh,
I'm
Pete.
Pete and I can't read more. Man, can you hear
John.
though? I'm
Yeah.
sure you can see. Can you hear? That's what I gotta worry about.
All right, anyways, let's just move on.
What does Taz have to say? Sorry.
The
go
reason
ahead.
the reason we don't want to watch now and then here and there is because we're watching what actually started the isekai genre this week, Rosario Vampire.
Yeah, definitely. Is it even an isekai?
It is.
What?
It's an
You
isekai
can make an
without
argument
death.
for it.
Yeah.
Without-
Hey, wait, isn't his mom still there or something? Like, you said that seemed
I mean, they
like
go
pretty
to
fucking
another
Are you
dark.
saying
world.
Mom Isekai is?
They go to another world. They go to another world.
Okay, so the whole family goes?
No, they can
I think
travel
there's like an
between worlds.
active portal
Clearly.
between them.
Yep, you have
Yeah.
to watch.
I do have to watch, apparently. Yeah, I do. Okay. Well, so there we go. Those are our 6 shows that we're nominating. It's nice to have 6 as well, since we had a full cast this week, rather than having to choose between from 4 shows to give 3 votes. I'm more excited to vote this week. I gotta say, it's good. We got some good nominations. But yeah, so thank you guys again for tuning in for past almost a year. And Pete, take it away.
Yeah, I was wondering what was going to happen. Yeah, so thank you if you made it this far. If you are a fan, please do the like, comment, subscribe. You know those vibes. Help us beat the algorithms. So that'll be dope. Next week will be our seasonal, like mid-season, like preview/review. Talk about shows that you should be watching if you're not. Talk about shows that you shouldn't be watching if you are. So tune in next Monday. That'll be really fun. And otherwise, if you are here for Watch Club, we'll see you in 2 weeks. For some reason, Rosario Vampire. So we'll see you then. Take care.